What happens when an advanced alien observer, sent to document primitive human military tactics, witnesses something that defies every law of warfare known to the galaxy? When Admiral Zextera of the Vorthak Intelligence Corps accepted what seemed like a routine surveillance mission, she expected to catalog the clumsy weapons and predictable strategies of a species barely capable of interplanetary travel. Instead, she became the sole witness to an event so terrifying, so impossibly devastating, that her own superiors branded her reports as fiction. The humans didn't just win their war. They rewrote the very concept of what warfare could be. This is the classified account of how a species dismissed as harmless primitives became the galaxy's most feared force, and why every major power now trembles at the mention of three simple words: humans at war. What you're about to read will change everything you thought you knew about the small blue planet in the outer spiral arm. This is not just a story of war. It's the story of the day the galaxy learned to be afraid. Admiral Zextera adjusted her observation equipment one final time before settling into her command chair aboard the stealth vessel Silent Observer. The ship hung motionless in the asteroid field beyond the human solar system's edge, its cloaking systems rendering it invisible to the primitive detection methods of the species she had been sent to study. Through the vast viewing screen, the third planet from the local star appeared as nothing more than a pale blue, hardly worthy of the Galactic Council's attention. Yet here she was, one of the Vorthak Empire's most decorated intelligence officers, assigned to what amounted to glorified babysitting duty. The mission brief had been insultingly simple: observe and document human warfare capabilities for the upcoming integration protocols. When a species reached the threshold of faster-than-light travel, standard procedure required a full military assessment before first contact. Most observations took mere days to complete. "Ma'am, we're receiving the latest intelligence update from Command," announced her aide, Lieutenant Krixtal, his scale hands dancing across the communication console. "The humans have apparently developed some form of crude nuclear propulsion and are conducting what they call deep space missions. Council estimates they'll achieve true FTL within 50 standard cycles." Zextera's mandibles clicked in mild amusement. 50 cycles to develop FTL from nuclear propulsion? Most species took at least 200. Either the Council's estimates were wildly optimistic, or these humans were more ambitious than their technology suggested. Still, ambition without capability meant little in the grand scheme of galactic politics. "Any significant military developments?" she asked, pulling up the preliminary surveillance data on her personal console. The information was sparse, but telling. The humans had apparently divided their single planet into hundreds of competing territorial units, constantly engaged in small-scale conflicts using projectile weapons and chemical explosives. By galactic standards, they were fighting with sticks and stones. Nothing noteworthy, Admiral. Standard primitive warfare patterns. They seem particularly fond of launching metal projectiles at high velocity and creating large explosions. Their largest weapons appear to use controlled nuclear fusion, though they've only deployed such devices twice in their recorded history. Krixtal paused, scanning through additional data. Command notes that their military philosophy seems to revolve around overwhelming force rather than strategic finesse. The Admiral's secondary eyes rolled in exasperation. Overwhelming force was the hallmark of every primitive species. Subtle tactics and strategic thinking came only with technological advancement and proper military education. The humans were probably still figuring out basic orbital mechanics, let alone the complex, three-dimensional warfare that dominated modern conflicts. "Estimated threat level?" she asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "Minimal to negligible, ma'am. Even if they achieved FTL tomorrow, their weapons technology appears to be approximately 800 cycles behind current galactic standards. Command suggests a routine integration process with minimal security concerns." Zextera nodded, settling back in her chair. This assignment was clearly intended as a rest period, a chance for her to recover from the intensity of her previous mission observing the Kralex border conflicts. After 3 cycles of documenting proper military engagements between advanced civilizations, watching primitive humans throw explosive devices at each other would be refreshingly simple. The bridge fell into comfortable silence as her crew went about their duties. The Silent Observer was equipped with the finest surveillance technology the Vorthak Empire could provide. long-range sensors capable of detecting energy signatures from halfway across the galaxy, quantum entanglement communication arrays, and observation drones small enough to infiltrate planetary atmospheres undetected. All of this cutting-edge technology brought to bear on a species that still relied primarily on fossil fuels for energy. "Admiral, we're detecting increased electromagnetic activity from the human homeworld," reported her sensor officer, Commander Veltar. "Multiple satellite launches in the past rotation, and significant military movements across several major landmasses." Finally, something interesting. Zextara leaned forward, activating the ship's enhanced sensors. The tactical display populated with data streams, showing electromagnetic signatures, heat blooms, and movement patterns across the human planet's surface. What she saw made her primary eyes narrow in concentration. The humans weren't just moving troops randomly. There was a pattern here, a coordination that suggested someone with actual strategic training was directing operations. Multiple large formations were converging on specific locations, while others spread out in defensive positions that, while primitive, showed understanding of basic tactical principles. "Are they engaged in one of their territorial disputes?" she asked. "Unknown, ma'am. The movement patterns are unlike anything in our database of human conflicts. They appear to be coordinating on a global scale rather than the typical regional engagements we've documented." This was unexpected. Previous observations had shown human military activities as largely isolated affairs, with different territorial groups fighting independently over resources or ideological differences. Global coordination suggested either a significant evolution in their political structures or the presence of a threat large enough to unite their typically fractious species. "Deploy reconnaissance drones for closer observation," Zextara ordered. "Full stealth protocols. I want to know what has these humans mobilizing on such a scale." The next several hours provided increasingly puzzling information. The human military forces were indeed coordinating globally, but not against each other. Instead, they seemed to be preparing defenses against something else entirely. Massive construction projects were underway at strategic locations, involving technologies that shouldn't exist in their developmental timeline. "Ma'am, you need to see this," Veltar announced, his voice carrying an edge of confusion. "I'm detecting energy signatures that don't match known human technology. Some of these readings are suggesting power outputs comparable to early-stage antimatter reactions." Antimatter? That was impossible. Antimatter manipulation was a mid-tier galactic technology, requiring understanding of quantum mechanics and particle physics that humans couldn't possibly possess. Yet the sensors were unambiguous. Someone on that planet was generating antimatter-level energy signatures. Could there be other off-world influences? Krixtal suggested. Perhaps another species has made unofficial contact. The possibility sent a chill through Zextara's confidence. Unofficial contact was strictly forbidden by galactic law, and any species engaging in such activities faced severe consequences. But it would explain the sudden advancement in human capabilities. Someone might be using the humans as proxies, providing them with advanced technology for purposes unknown. "Initiate deep scan protocols," she commanded. "I want to know the source of every unusual energy signature on that planet. If another species is interfering with a pre-contact civilization, the Council needs to know immediately." As the ship's advanced sensors focused on the human homeworld, painting detailed pictures of the ongoing military activities, Zextara began to feel the first stirrings of genuine concern. This was supposed to be a routine observation mission, but nothing about what she was seeing seemed routine. The humans were moving with purpose and coordination that spoke of advanced planning and sophisticated communication networks. More troubling was the scale of their preparations. Whatever they were preparing for, they considered it significant enough to mobilize their entire species. In her extensive experience with primitive civilizations, such unity was usually only achieved in the face of an extinction-level threat. The question that kept nagging at her was simple. What could threaten a species that the rest of the galaxy considered barely worth noticing? And why did their preparations suggest they might actually have a chance of surviving it? As the reconnaissance data continued flowing in, Admiral Zextara found herself confronting an uncomfortable realization. She might be about to observe something far more significant than a primitive species' military capabilities. She might be about to witness the birth of a new type of warfare entirely. The humans, it seemed, were about to teach the galaxy something it didn't know it needed to learn. The answer to Admiral Zextera's questions came 3 days later in a form that shattered every assumption about human military capabilities. Admiral, emergency transmission incoming from the outer system perimeter, Commander Veltar reported, his voice tight with alarm. Multiple unidentified contacts approaching the human solar system at significant velocity. Zextera straightened in her command chair, instantly alert. Configuration and heading? Unknown design, ma'am. Sensor readings suggest advanced propulsion systems and energy shielding. Estimated arrival at the human homeworld in 6 standard hours. Veltar paused, checking his readings again. Admiral, these vessels aren't in any of our databases. They're not from any known galactic civilization. The implications hit Zextera like a physical blow. Unknown vessels approaching a pre-contact world could only mean one thing. First contact was about to occur, and it wasn't going to be the carefully managed process the Galactic Council had perfected over millennia. This was going to be chaotic, potentially violent, and completely outside established protocols. Red alert, she commanded. All observation systems to maximum sensitivity. Record everything. If we're about to witness unauthorized first contact, the Council will need complete documentation. The bridge erupted into controlled activity as her crew prepared for what might be the most significant intelligence-gathering operation of their careers. The Silent Observer might be a reconnaissance vessel, but it was equipped to document everything from energy weapon signatures to diplomatic exchanges. Whatever was about to happen, the Galactic Council would have a complete record. Ma'am, the approaching vessels are broadcasting on multiple frequencies, reported her communications officer. The transmissions appear to be directed at the human homeworld, but I can't decode the language. It's unlike any linguistic pattern in our databases. Zextera felt a chill run down her spine. Unknown species, unknown technology, and unknown intentions. This violated every principle of controlled galactic expansion. Whoever these beings were, they were operating completely outside the established order that had maintained peace across thousands of worlds for centuries. What's the human response? She asked. Increasing military activity across all major population centers. They're mobilizing everything they have, Admiral. Every functional military unit on the planet appears to be moving to defensive positions. The tactical display updated to show the scope of human preparations, and Zextera had to admit she was impressed despite herself. The humans might be primitive, but they understood the concept of unified defense. Every major military force on their planet was coordinating in a way that suggested extensive preparation and planning. They were expecting this, she murmured, the realization striking her suddenly. All that military buildup we observed wasn't random. They knew this was coming. But how? How could a pre-contact species possibly know about approaching alien forces? Unless the contact wasn't as first as it appeared. The pieces began falling into place in Zextera's mind, and the picture they formed was deeply disturbing. Lieutenant Crixtal, initiate emergency communication with command. Priority Alpha protocols. We have a potential first contact violation in progress with unknown participants. As her aide began the complex process of establishing quantum-encrypted communication with Vorthack Command, the tactical situation around the human homeworld continued to evolve. The approaching vessels had dropped out of faster-than-light travel and were now clearly visible to the ship's sensors. Admiral, I'm getting clear images of the unknown vessels, Veltar announced. Transmitting to main display now. The sight that appeared on the viewing screen made Zextera's breath catch. The ships were massive, easily 3 times larger than anything in the current Vorthack fleet. Their design was angular and aggressive, covered in what appeared to be weapon emplacements and energy projection arrays. These weren't exploration vessels or diplomatic ships. These were instruments of war. Estimated crew complement? She asked. Based on ship size and configuration, possibly 50,000 beings per vessel. Admiral, I'm counting 47 ships in the approaching fleet. 2 million soldiers, equipped with technology that surpassed anything the Galactic Council possessed, approaching a world with less than 10 billion inhabitants. The mathematics of the situation were stark and brutal. If these unknown beings intended conquest, the humans stood no chance whatsoever. The humans are responding to the approach, her communications officer reported. Massive electromagnetic bursts from their homeworld. They're attempting communication. Can you decode their transmission? Working on it, ma'am. The humans appear to be using multiple frequency bands and complex mathematical sequences. Whatever they're trying to say, they're making sure it gets through. The next few minutes passed in tense silence as the unknown fleet approached and the humans continued their frantic communications attempts. Zextera found herself oddly invested in the outcome. These primitive beings were about to face annihilation, and there was nothing she could do but observe and record their final hours. Then, the impossible happened. Admiral, the unknown fleet is responding to human communications, her officer announced in disbelief. They're slowing their approach, and they're transmitting back. What kind of response? It appears to be coordinates, ma'am. Specific locations on the human homeworld surface. The tactical display updated to show the designated locations, and Zextera felt her confusion deepen. The coordinates weren't random. They marked specific points around the human planet, each one corresponding to areas where she had detected the mysterious energy signatures during her earlier observations. They're coordinating, she realized aloud. The humans and these unknown beings are coordinating. The implications were staggering. This wasn't first contact at all. This was a prearranged meeting between species that had clearly been in communication for some time. But that raised even more disturbing questions. Who were these beings? How had they made contact with humans without the Galactic Council's knowledge? And why had they chosen to ally themselves with such a primitive species? Ma'am, Command is responding to our priority transmission, Crixtal announced. They're requesting immediate data, upload, and continued observation. Admiral Trixon himself is standing by for real-time updates. Having the attention of Vorthack Command's highest-ranking officer meant this situation had just escalated beyond routine intelligence gathering. Zextera was no longer just observing a primitive species. She was documenting what might be the emergence of a new galactic power structure. Continuous data stream to Command, she ordered. Full sensor records, every communication intercept, complete tactical analysis. If this goes badly, Command needs to know what we're dealing with. As the unknown fleet settled into orbit around the human homeworld, massive energy signatures began appearing across the planet's surface. The humans weren't just communicating with their mysterious allies. They were powering up systems that had been hidden from orbital observation. Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy buildups at 17 different locations, Veltar reported, his voice filled with amazement. These aren't primitive human installations. The power outputs suggest advanced matter conversion systems. Matter conversion? That was beyond even current Vorthack technology. The ability to convert matter directly into energy at will was theoretical science, discussed by the galaxy's finest physicists, but never successfully implemented. Yet sensors were showing exactly that type of reaction occurring across multiple human facilities. How is this possible? Crixtal whispered, staring at the impossible readings on his console. Zextera didn't have an answer. Everything she was observing violated her understanding of technological development, galactic politics, and the nature of primitive civilizations. The humans weren't just receiving advanced technology from their mysterious allies. They were operating it successfully, which suggested a level of scientific understanding that should have taken centuries to achieve. As energy signatures across the human homeworld reached critical levels, the unknown fleet began deploying smaller vessels toward the planet's surface. But these weren't invasion craft. The deployment patterns and approach vectors suggested coordination rather than conquest. They're working together, she breathed, the full scope of the situation finally becoming clear. This isn't an invasion. It's an alliance. An alliance between primitive humans and beings possessing technology that surpassed anything the Galactic Council had ever encountered. The strategic implications were enormous. If this alliance was hostile to established galactic powers, the balance of power that had maintained peace for millennia was about to shift dramatically. Admiral, priority message from Command, Crixtal announced. Admiral Trixon wants to know our assessment of human military capabilities. Zextera looked at the impossible energy readings, the coordinated fleet movements, and the growing realization that everything the Vorthack Empire thought it knew about the human species was completely wrong. Tell Command, she said slowly, that we're going to need a new assessment scale. Admiral Zextera's understanding of the situation changed completely when her communications officer managed to decrypt the first coherent exchange between humans and their mysterious allies. Admiral, I've broken through their encryption protocols, announced the officer, his voice filled with excitement and confusion. But, ma'am, what I'm hearing doesn't make sense according to our understanding of interspecies relations. Explain. The humans aren't subservient to these unknown beings, ma'am. They're giving orders. The statement hung in the air like an impossible puzzle. Primitive species didn't give orders to advanced civilizations. The entire structure of galactic hierarchy was based on technological superiority determining political power. Yet the evidence was mounting that these humans had somehow inverted that relationship. Play the communication, Zextera commanded. The bridge speakers crackled with alien voices speaking in clipped, efficient tones. Her translation software worked frantically to parse the unknown language, providing subtitles that made the impossible seem real. Perimeter Defense Grid Online. All Nexus stations report ready status. Confirmed. Central Command. Fleet positioning complete. Awaiting strategic deployment orders. Roger that. Maintain defensive posture until we confirm the nature of approaching contacts. All units, this is not a drill. Zextera felt her worldview cracking. The voices giving orders were unmistakably human, while the responses came from beings whose technology surpassed anything in galactic databases. Somehow, these primitive bipeds had positioned themselves as the commanders in an alliance with species that should have been treating them as barely sentient. How long have they been in communication? She asked. Based on communication patterns and technological integration levels, I estimate at least 20 of their planetary cycles, her communications officer replied. Ma'am, the level of coordination suggests extensive prior cooperation. This isn't a recent alliance. 20 cycles. For 20 years, humans have been secretly collaborating with unknown advanced species, building military capabilities that the Galactic Council hadn't even suspected existed. The intelligence failure was so complete that Zextera wondered if her entire understanding of the galaxy had been fundamentally flawed. Commander Veltar, detailed analysis of the human installations. I want to know exactly what they've built. The sensor data that flooded her screen painted a picture that challenged everything she thought she knew about technological development. The human installations weren't just using advanced technology. They had integrated it so seamlessly with their existing infrastructure that it appeared to be naturally evolved rather than externally provided. Admiral, these installations show a level of technological fusion that typically takes centuries to achieve, Veltar reported. The humans have successfully merged advanced antimatter manipulation, quantum field generators, and what appears to be dimensional manipulation technology with their existing industrial base. Dimensional manipulation. Zextera had to steady herself against her command chair. That was beyond theoretical science for most galactic civilizations. The Vorthak Empire had been researching dimensional technology for 3 centuries without significant breakthrough. Yet these humans were apparently using it as standard military equipment. Ma'am, incoming transmission from command, Krixtal announced. Admiral Trixhan is requesting immediate strategic assessment. High Command is concerned about the implications of our reports. Zextera could imagine their concern. If her reports were accurate, the strategic balance of the galaxy had shifted without anyone noticing. The humans had somehow acquired the technological capability to challenge any existing power, and they had done it in complete secrecy. Tell Admiral Trixhan that the situation is beyond current threat assessment parameters, she replied. The humans aren't just allied with unknown technology. They're commanding it. As if to emphasize her point, the tactical display updated with new information that made the scope of human capabilities even more clear. Additional fleets were arriving in the outer system, each one responding to human communication protocols and taking positions as directed by terrestrial command centers. How many ships are we tracking now? She asked. Current count is 237 vessels, Admiral. All of unknown configuration, all responding to human command authority. 237 ships with technology that surpassed anything the Vorthak Empire possessed, all taking orders from a species that the Galactic Council had classified as primitive. The mathematical implications for galactic security were staggering. Admiral, I'm detecting incoming vessels from galactic space, her sensor officer announced suddenly. Multiple contacts approaching at high velocity. Configurations suggest Thyorian Confederacy battle fleet. The Thyorians, one of the galaxy's major military powers, known for aggressive expansion policies and sophisticated warfare technology. Their presence could only mean one thing. Other galactic powers had also detected the unusual activity in the human system and were responding accordingly. Estimated time to arrival? 4 hours, ma'am. Standard Thyorian fleet composition suggests they're expecting significant resistance. Zextara felt the situation spiraling beyond her ability to observe passively. The Thyorians wouldn't hesitate to engage unknown forces, especially if they perceive them as a threat to galactic stability. If fighting broke out between Thyorian forces and the Human Alliance, she would witness the first interstellar war involving humans. Ma'am, the humans are responding to the Thyorian approach, her communications officer reported. They're coordinating fleet movements to intercept. The tactical display showed the human-allied fleet moving with precision that spoke of extensive military training and sophisticated command systems. Their formations were textbook perfect, their positioning strategically sound, and their coordination flawless. These weren't the movements of primitive beings struggling with advanced technology. These were the maneuvers of experienced military professionals. How are they doing this? Krixtal asked in amazement. These movement patterns suggest military education equivalent to our own fleet academies. Before Zextara could respond, her communications array lit up with an incoming message directed specifically at the silent observer. Someone knew they were there, despite their advanced stealth systems. Admiral, we're being hailed, her officer announced in shock. The signal is coming from a human homeworld, and they're using Vorthack communication protocols. Impossible. Vorthack communication technology was closely guarded state secrets, encrypted with quantum keys that changed every few seconds. No external species had ever successfully intercepted and decoded their communications, let alone learned to use them. Accept the transmission, she ordered, her curiosity overcoming her caution. The main screen activated to show a human face, which was shocking enough in itself. But what truly stunned Zextara was that the human was speaking perfect Vorthack, using formal military protocols with precision that suggested extensive training. Greetings, Admiral Zextara of the Vorthack Intelligence Corps. I am Colonel Sarachun of United Earth Defense Command. We are aware of your observation mission and appreciate your professional conduct during our current operations. Zextara found herself momentarily speechless. Not only did this human know her name and rank, but she was using diplomatic language that suggested sophisticated understanding of interstellar political protocols. How do you know our communication methods? She managed to ask. Admiral, Earth has been aware of galactic civilization for considerably longer than your intelligence suggests, Colonel Chun replied with what might have been amusement. We've been preparing for eventual contact, and that preparation has included learning about the major powers we would eventually encounter. And your allies? The unknown fleet. Not unknown to us, Admiral. We've been working with the Nexus Collective for over 20 Earth years, preparing for the day when our world would need to defend itself against potential threats. The Nexus Collective. Zextara ran the name through her memory, but it matched nothing in any galactic database. Either these beings were from outside mapped space, or they had managed to remain completely hidden from galactic intelligence networks. Colonel Chun, are you aware that Thyorian forces are approaching this system? The human's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her demeanor that suggested she was not only aware, but had been expecting this development. Yes, Admiral. We've been tracking their approach for the past 6 hours. We appreciate your professional courtesy in not alerting them to our capabilities before we were ready to demonstrate them ourselves. The implications of that statement sent chills through Zextara's entire being. The humans had been tracking Thyorian fleet movements from their homeworld. They possessed sensor technology that could detect faster-than-light travel across interstellar distances. Such capability required mastery of quantum mechanics and space-time manipulation that few civilizations ever achieved. Admiral, Colonel Chun continued, I want to assure you that Earth has no hostile intentions toward the Vorthack Empire or any galactic civilization that approaches us with peaceful intent. However, we will defend ourselves against any force that threatens our world or our sovereignty. As if summoned by her words, the tactical display updated to show massive energy buildups across all human installations. Whatever they were preparing to demonstrate, it was going to be significant enough to power up every system they possessed. Colonel, what exactly are you preparing to defend against? The human smiled, and there was something in that expression that made Zextra deeply uncomfortable. Admiral, we're not preparing to defend. We're preparing to show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens humanity. The Thyorian battle fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel with the characteristic energy discharge of military-grade propulsion systems. Admiral Zextra watched from her concealed position as 47 of the Confederacy's most advanced warships arranged themselves in standard attack formation, their weapons systems already charging for what they clearly expected to be a brief and decisive engagement. Admiral, incoming transmission from the Thyorian Fleet Commander, her communications officer announced. They're broadcasting on standard galactic frequencies, demanding identification and surrender from all vessels in the system. Zextra had witnessed Thyorian military operations before. They were efficient, ruthless, and overwhelmingly successful against any opposition they encountered. Their ships were heavily armed, well-shielded, and crewed by professional soldiers trained from childhood for interstellar warfare. Against any conventional force, the outcome would be predetermined. But nothing about the human alliance was conventional. The humans are responding, her officer continued, broadcasting on the same frequency, but the content is unusual. Play it. The bridge speakers carried a crisp, professional voice speaking in perfect Thyorian military standard. This is Admiral Marcus Thompson, United Earth Defense Command, addressing the Thyorian Confederacy fleet. You have entered the Sol system without permission and issued threats against sovereign Earth territory. You have 30 seconds to reverse course and depart this system, where you will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. Silence followed the transmission, broken only by what sounded like Thyorian laughter from the enemy fleet. Unknown primitive vessel, you are ordered to surrender immediately, came the Thyorian response. Resistance to Confederacy authority is futile. Prepare to be boarded. What happened next shattered every assumption about human capabilities that had existed in galactic intelligence databases. The space around the Thyorian fleet simply vanished. Not destroyed, not displaced, but erased from existence as if reality itself had been surgically removed. Where 47 massive warships had been arranging themselves for battle, there was now nothing but empty space that seemed somehow darker than the surrounding void. Report, Zextra demanded, her voice tight with shock. Admiral, I'm not detecting any weapon discharge. No energy signature. No residual radiation. Commander Veltar announced in disbelief. The Thyorian fleet hasn't been destroyed. It's simply gone. Gone how? Ships don't just disappear. Ma'am, according to our sensors, the space those ships occupied has been removed from our dimensional framework. It's as if someone cut a hole in reality itself and removed everything inside it. Dimensional weaponry, the theoretical pinnacle of military technology, discussed by the galaxy's finest scientists but never successfully implemented by any known civilization. The energy requirements alone should have been impossible for a planetary-based power to generate. Yet somehow the humans had not only built such a weapon, but had deployed it with surgical precision. Ma'am, incoming communication from Earth, her officer announced, his voice shaking slightly. Admiral Thompson's face appeared on her screen, looking exactly as calm and professional as he had before erasing an entire fleet from existence. Admiral Zextra, I trust our demonstration has been informative. The Thyorian fleet has been relocated to a safe distance where they can consider their approach to future diplomatic relations. They have not been harmed, merely removed from the immediate threat equation. Relocated. They had moved an entire battle fleet through dimensional space as casually as moving furniture in a room. The technological implications were staggering, but the strategic implications were apocalyptic for existing galactic power structures. Admiral Thompson, how is this possible? The energy requirements for dimensional manipulation should exceed any planetary power generation capability. The human smiled with what appeared to be genuine amusement. Admiral, Earth stopped relying solely on planetary power generation some time ago. Our alliance with the Nexus Collective has provided us access to technologies that draw energy from multiple dimensional frameworks simultaneously. What you witnessed was a relatively minor demonstration of our defensive capabilities. Multiple dimensional frameworks. Zextra felt her understanding of physics itself beginning to crumble. Accessing energy from parallel dimensions was purely theoretical science, mentioned only in the most advanced academic papers. Yet these humans were discussing it as routine military technology. How long have you possessed these capabilities? She asked. Our first successful dimensional manipulation occurred approximately 15 Earth years ago, Thompson replied. Since then, we've been expanding and refining the technology in preparation for eventual galactic contact. We knew that when we revealed ourselves to galactic civilization, we would need to be able to defend our sovereignty effectively. 15 years. For 15 years, humans had possessed technology that surpassed anything the Galactic Council knew existed, and they had kept it completely secret while continuing to appear as a primitive, spacefaring species. The level of operational security required for such deception suggested planning and patience that most galactic civilizations couldn't match. Admiral, priority transmission from Vorthack Command, Krixtau announced urgently. Admiral Trixhan is demanding immediate strategic assessment update. Zextera looked at the empty space where the Thyorian fleet had been, then at the human face on her communication screen, and realized she had no idea how to explain what she had witnessed to her superiors. Admiral Thompson, are you planning to reveal these capabilities to the broader galactic community? That depends largely on how the galactic community chooses to approach Earth, he replied. We have no desire for conflict, but we will not accept subjugation or interference in our internal affairs. The galaxy will need to decide whether it wants Earth as a partner or as a problem. The human's words carried implications that sent shockwaves through Zextera's strategic thinking. The entire structure of galactic politics was based on the assumption that advanced civilizations naturally dominated primitive ones. If humans could defend themselves against any conventional force, that assumption collapsed entirely. Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the human system, Veltar reported. Multiple installations are powering up systems that register beyond our measurement capabilities. On the tactical display, energy signatures appeared across the human solar system that dwarfed anything Zextera had ever seen. Installations on multiple planets and moons were activating simultaneously, creating a network of power generation that seemed to draw energy from sources her sensors couldn't identify. Admiral Thompson, what are you preparing for? Word of what happened here will spread quickly through galactic communication networks, he explained. We expect additional fleets from multiple civilizations to arrive within the next several standard periods. We're preparing to demonstrate that Earth's defensive capabilities scale appropriately to whatever level of force is brought against us. The implications were clear. The humans weren't just capable of defending against single fleets. They were preparing to face the combined military might of multiple galactic powers simultaneously. Such confidence suggested capabilities that exceeded anything in her experience. How many ships can your alliance field? She asked, dreading the answer. Admiral, I think you're still approaching this from a conventional warfare perspective, Thompson replied. Ship numbers become irrelevant when you can manipulate dimensional space itself. The question isn't how many ships we can field, but how much of the galaxy we're willing to defend. How much of the galaxy they were willing to defend. Not could defend, but willing to defend. The subtle difference in phrasing suggested that human capabilities extended far beyond their home system, and that they saw themselves as potential protectors rather than merely survivors. Admiral, multiple FDL signatures detected approaching the system, her sensor officer announced. I'm reading Zephyrian Empire, Valdarin Republic, and what appears to be a Galactic Council peacekeeping force. 3 more major galactic powers, all converging on the human system simultaneously. Word of the Thyorian fleet's disappearance had clearly spread through diplomatic channels faster than anticipated. What had started as a routine observation mission was about to become the site of the largest interstellar confrontation in galactic history. Admiral Thompson, are you prepared to face the combined fleets of 4 major galactic powers? The human smile never wavered, but something in his eyes suggested depths of preparation and capability that she was only beginning to glimpse. Admiral Zextera, I appreciate your concern, but Earth has been preparing for this day for 2 decades. We're about to show the galaxy what happens when a species has 20 years to prepare for war, while everyone else assumes they're still playing with primitive weapons. As energy signatures across the human system reached levels that her instruments could barely measure, Zextera realized she was about to witness something that would redefine the entire concept of interstellar warfare. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were about to demonstrate that everything the galaxy thought it knew about military power was obsolete. The real war was about to begin. Admiral Zextara watched in growing horror as the largest military force in recorded galactic history assembled outside the human solar system. The Zephyria Empire had brought their infamous Devastator-class battleships, each one capable of glassing an entire planet. The Valdran Republic deployed their quantum lance destroyers, weapons designed to tear through space-time itself. The Galactic Council peacekeeping force included representatives from 12 different species, their combined firepower sufficient to sterilize entire star systems. In total, over 400 vessels representing the pinnacle of galactic military technology faced a single primitive world that most of the galaxy had never heard of 6 months ago. Admiral, incoming transmission from the Combined Fleet Command, her communications officer announced. They're demanding immediate surrender from all human forces and the revelation of their technological sources. Through her quantum communication link, Zextara could hear the Combined Fleet commanders coordinating their attack. The strategy was simple and overwhelming: simultaneous assault from multiple vectors, designed to prevent any possible escape or effective resistance. Against any known force in the galaxy, such coordination would guarantee absolute victory. But as she watched the human defensive preparations, Zextara realized that the approaching fleets had no understanding of what they were actually facing. Commander Veltar, status of human energy signatures. Off the scale, Admiral. I'm detecting power generation levels that suggest they're drawing energy from sources outside normal spacetime. Some of these readings indicate manipulation of fundamental forces that our science considers impossible. On the tactical display, the human installations across their solar system pulsed with energy patterns that defied conventional physics. What made it more disturbing was the casual efficiency with which they had activated systems that should have required years of preparation and massive resource allocation. Admiral Zextara, came Admiral Thompson's voice over the communication channel. You might want to move your vessel to a safer distance. What we're about to demonstrate will have effects across several light years of space. Several light years. Conventional weapons had engagement ranges measured in thousands of kilometers. Energy weapons might reach across star systems. But effects measured in light years suggested manipulation of spacetime itself on a scale that approached the theoretical limits of what physics allowed. Admiral Thompson, the combined fleet includes over 400 vessels with crews totaling nearly 2 million beings. Surely you're not planning to, Admiral, he interrupted gently. We're not going to harm anyone. We're going to show them exactly why threatening Earth was a mistake they'll never want to repeat. Before Zextara could ask what he meant, space itself began to change. It started subtly, a slight distortion in the starfield visible only to the most sensitive instruments. Then, the distortion spread, creating waves of altered reality that propagated outward from the human solar system at faster-than-light speeds. Within minutes, the entire region of space containing the assembled fleets was enclosed in what appeared to be a bubble of modified physics. Report, Zextara demanded, though her sensors were providing readings that made no sense. Admiral, the humans have created what appears to be a localized alteration of spacetime, Commander Veltar announced in disbelief. They've changed the fundamental properties of physics within a sphere approximately 10 light-years in diameter. Changed the fundamental properties of physics. Zextara stared at her tactical display, watching as the icons representing the combined galactic fleet began behaving in ways that violated everything she understood about space travel and military tactics. Ma'am, the enemy fleets are reporting total systems failures, her communications officer announced. Their engines won't function, their weapons won't fire, and their shields have collapsed. They're essentially dead in space. How is that possible? According to their emergency transmissions, the humans have altered the local quantum vacuum state. The physical laws that their technology relies on no longer function within the affected area. Altering the quantum vacuum state. Zextara felt her sanity straining against the impossibility of what she was witnessing. Quantum vacuum manipulation was purely theoretical science, discussed only in the most advanced academic circles as a potentially universe-ending catastrophe if ever attempted. Yet the humans had not only successfully implemented it, but had done so with surgical precision that affected only artificial technology while leaving biological life unharmed. Admiral, incoming communication from Admiral Thompson, her officer announced. The human's face appeared on her screen, looking exactly as calm as he had throughout this entire impossible demonstration. Admiral Zextera, as you can see, we've temporarily suspended the physical laws that allow advanced technology to function within this region of space. The crews of all vessels remain unharmed, but their ships are now effectively non-functional. You've suspended the laws of physics, she said weakly. Only locally, and only temporarily, Thompson replied with what might have been amusement. The effect will wear off in approximately 6 hours, at which point all vessels will regain full functionality. However, I suspect most fleet commanders will choose to depart rather than test our more permanent solutions. Zextera didn't want to contemplate what technologies lay beyond temporarily rewriting the fundamental laws of reality. Admiral Thompson, this level of technology, how is it possible? The energy requirements alone should exceed the output of entire star systems. Admiral, you're still thinking in terms of conventional energy sources, he explained patiently. When you can access infinite parallel dimensions, energy becomes abundant rather than scarce. When you can manipulate the quantum foundations of reality, conventional limitations no longer apply. Infinite parallel dimensions. Access to alternate realities where different physical laws might apply, different energy sources might exist, different possibilities might be explored. The humans hadn't just advanced their technology. They had transcended the basic limitations that constrained all other galactic civilizations. Ma'am, emergency transmission from Vorthack Command, Krixtal announced urgently. Admiral Trixon is ordering immediate withdrawal from the human system. High Command has classified the situation as a Level 10 threat. Level 10, the highest threat classification in Vorthack military doctrine, reserved for extinction-level dangers to galactic civilization itself. In her entire career, Zextera had never heard of a Level 10 classification being issued for anything short of stellar engineering weapons or reality-altering technologies. Technologies that the humans were now demonstrating with casual efficiency. Admiral Thompson, what does Earth want from the galactic community? She asked. The same thing we've always wanted, Admiral. To be left alone to develop and grow according to our own choices. The galaxy is welcome to trade with us, learn from us, even become our friends. But no one will ever again have the power to threaten or control us. As if to emphasize his point, new energy signatures began appearing across human space. Not weapons or defensive systems, but what appeared to be massive construction projects operating at speeds that defied conventional understanding of engineering. In real time, she was watching the humans build infrastructure that would have taken most civilizations decades to complete. Admiral, I'm detecting what appears to be artificial habitable worlds being constructed in multiple star systems simultaneously, Veltar reported in amazement. They're not just defending their existing territory. They're expanding across dozens of systems at once. Expansion across multiple star systems, using technology that could create habitable worlds in hours rather than centuries. The strategic implications were clear. Earth wasn't just defending itself. It was preparing to become a major galactic power, whether the existing powers wanted it to happen or not. Admiral Zextera, Thompson continued, I want you to understand that what you've witnessed today represents a tiny fraction of Earth's actual capabilities. We revealed ourselves not because we were forced to, but because we decided it was time. The galaxy can choose to welcome us as equals, or it can continue to test our resolve. But the age of any civilization threatening humanity without consequence is now permanently over. As the disabled fleets began broadcasting surrender signals and requests for safe passage out of human space, Zextera realized she was witnessing the end of the galactic order that had existed for millennia. The humans hadn't just demonstrated superior technology. They had demonstrated the ability to selectively enforce their will across interstellar distances while showing restraint that most galactic powers would never have exercised. Admiral Thompson, what happens now? Now, Admiral, the galaxy learns to coexist with a species that could defend itself. Earth will be sending diplomatic missions to every major galactic power within the next few months. We'll be proposing new frameworks for interstellar relations based on mutual respect rather than technological dominance. New frameworks based on mutual respect. The concept was so alien to existing galactic politics that Zextera had trouble processing it. For as long as anyone could remember, interstellar relations have been determined by military capability and technological advancement. The strong dominated the weak, and that dominance was accepted as natural law. But the humans had just demonstrated that they were stronger than everyone else combined, and instead of using that strength to dominate, they were proposing cooperation. As the quantum vacuum alteration field began to fade, and the disabled fleets started recovering basic functionality, Zextera watched ship after ship immediately jump to faster-than-light travel, fleeing human space as quickly as their engines could carry them. Within hours, the largest military force in galactic history had become the largest retreat in galactic history. Admiral, final transmission from Admiral Thompson, her communications officer announced. Admiral Zextera, I want to thank you for your professional conduct throughout these proceedings. The Vorthak Empire has always been known for its honorable military traditions, and we look forward to establishing formal diplomatic relations with your people. Please convey to your superiors that Earth considers the Vorthak Empire a potential ally rather than a threat. A potential ally. After witnessing the complete humiliation of the galaxy's combined military might, the humans were offering friendship to anyone wise enough to accept it. As the Silent Observer began its journey back to Vorthak space, carrying the most significant intelligence report in galactic history, Admiral Zextera found herself confronting a fundamental truth that would reshape everything she thought she knew about the universe. Humanity hadn't just arrived on the galactic stage. They had rewritten the script entirely. The age of humans had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The primitives had become the teachers, and the rest of the galaxy had just learned their first lesson in humility.